Hi, my name is Elisha Williams, and in this video, I will be answering questions from chapters 1, 3, 4, 5, and 6 based on industrial organizational psychology. The first question posed is, how have recent historical events affected the course of both research and practice in organizational psychology? So, one of the main recent historical events that has a lot to do with how industrial organizational psychologists all are currently research the workplace and how it affects companies and employees is COVID. COVID, as we know, was a time of social distancing. Remote work became more prioritized due to people having to quarantine. People couldn't be, statewide, countrywide guidelines on health and how many people can occupy a workplace or any public place for that matter at one time. So it forced organizations who usually traditionally have in-office approaches to work to then adapt to being out of office and remote working at home. So one of the biggest shifts in research that had was that organizational psychologists was now looking at how virtual work, virtual meetings, teamwork and communication online, and productivity at home and employee satisfaction looked in this bubble of remote work. So the outcome of that was that a lot of jobs ended up going past the pandemic and adapting a hybrid work schedule. And the research also showed some pros and some cons. Pros being that employees now had more flexibility in their work schedules. Employees also had more feelings of autonomy and less exhaustion because they were able to do meetings from home. Some of the cons showed was that some people felt like it had a lack of a lack of engagement, because now people can go on meetings and have their cameras off. They don't have to participate as much. Their backgrounds could be loud. People at home might not be the best place to always work at times. So it was definitely a big shift in how work is done and how a lot of companies from their beginnings and their roots are currently doing work now, as I mentioned, hybrid work. And this is something that scientists, what we call scientist practitioners were tasked with figuring out how to balance remote work and in-office work and keep the levels of productivity in the workplace and the workforce. One of the second major shifts was that in mental health. So it became more of a people first focus, well-being, mental health, like I said, burnout, exhaustion. Those are things that you see in later chapters, of course, that's more locked in and intertwines with the work, non-work conflict that people deal with on a day-to-day basis. One of the bigger shifts, of course, next to COVID itself, was during COVID when George Floyd unfortunately died due to police brutality. It sparked a more nationwide response on diversion and inclusion, and a result of that ended up being that now more companies are focused on how to include people of different ethnicities and backgrounds into their workplace, into the culture of the workplace, without neglecting how people feel, and also just becoming more sensitive to things that might affect people of different ethnicities and beliefs. So those recent historical events that I've just mentioned, all of the above, has a lot to do currently with how the sector of psychology known as industrial organizational psychology is researched and where the researchers' focus is now. So that was a big part of it. Okay, so as for the second question, regarding chapter 3, If I were to be hired as a consultant for a local university, and I will be collaborating with the recruitment director to hire diversified but also highly qualified employees, new hires. First, I would remind the recruitment director that recruitment is not random. So you always want to hire employees who fit the strategic plan of the organization. Second, looking at the first thing that I will tell the director to target is where the faculty needs filling in. This is succession planning. Universities, much like other organizations, they face turnover rates, they face retirement, and people going for promotions or getting promoted. So the spots that was once filled by past employees for whatever reason needs to be filled. So just looking at where the faculty needs more assistance at would be a big part of where we're going with this as far as the recruitment process goes. And now the next part is the skills that's needed to properly do the job, do a quality job. So universities, they should be looking for individuals who have research specializations. They could fit. They come from a different demographic and background, because college students also come from different demographics, and representation is very important. As mentioned from the first chapter, and the diversity and inclusion, representation is very important, and definitely in school and college, being taught by someone that you may be able to relate to on a different level, that works. It might not always be like that, but to have it like that at times definitely helps. For example, ALS class being taught by a Latino teacher or an African American teacher, or a teacher that has an ethnic background that fits that curriculum and what's being taught, it definitely helps the learning process for students. So finding people who have those skills that could fit the gaps that aren't probably necessarily in your organization. Maybe you guys aren't as strong with research. Maybe you guys don't have a wide range of demographic. Bringing those in and filling those gaps would help make the recruitment process more intentional, as mentioned. Another strategy, so that's important, is diversifying to diversify the application pool, which is the whole point of this. What I'm saying is, post on LinkedIn, post on Indeed, post on ZipRecruiter, attend job fairs for the underrepresented. Things like that will allow you to find different people of different backgrounds that can come in and make the recruitment process work as well. So definitely you wanna open up where you're recruiting from. Don't just try to recruit from employees word of mouth or recommendations. Try to also go out there and put your company on different platforms, because as we know, LinkedIn is very diversified. All tons of people going Indeed, ZipRecruiter, or looking for jobs always. And because those are reputable sites, it would never hurt to post jobs there, and see what pool you could pull from all three or four sites, and then the job fairs as well. So that's definitely something really important. Also, jobs descriptions could turn people away. So try to separate preferred from required. Try to put words out there that are appealing to all employees or potential employees alike. It would definitely where you will get a more diversified amount of people, because if you say master's required, then someone with a bachelor's probably won't take the chance at applying because they feel like they don't fit the requirements. But if you put preferred, someone with a bachelor's but they have good teaching experience will still be more inclined to apply for the job. And some quick activities and events that could be done is having job fairs where you let people know, this is for diversity and inclusion, and everyone is welcome to come out. Virtual open houses will definitely be a big one, because like I said, with remote work, is a lot more people are more likely to log in onto their phones and go ahead and attempt to do the job that way. So the attempt to apply for the job that way, my excuses. So yes, overall, that is what I would recommend to a company looking to diversify their applicant pool while also bringing in highly qualified employees. Okay, so for question 3, chapter 4, if I was a consultant working with a hiring manager who feels they just hired a high performer, and they want to keep them for as long as possible, first I would explain to the hiring manager what work-family conflict is. This is a term commonly used in industrial organizational psychology to define the phenomena or the commonly seen pattern where an individual's work life can interfere with their family life, or their family life could interfere with their work life. They're pretty interchangeable, even though they affect and interrupt work differently. So first, I would tell the hiring manager to try to understand the new employees' boundaries. Of course, not being too invasive, but just asking them what they need and what are the best tools needed for them to succeed here at the organization, and how can they feel comfortable and get into their role properly and adjust to their role properly. And then I was advise the hiring manager to find ways to offer flexibility. Even if the organization can't offer remote days, of course, remote days would be the first thing I would offer, because, like, being realistic, workers love the ability to, even if they have to be in the office 4 days out of the week, that fifth day is really important that they have off. And if that's not possible, I would tell them, hey, like, what are the flexible start and end times that can possibly be done, or promote being a self-starter. Being a self-starter may not be easy for all employees, but it is a chance for an employee to have some autonomy over their work and tasks, and when they get it done and how it's done, which can allow for them to automatically feel more flexible and give them the chance to wind down when they need to. I would tell them to tell and list the paid time off, or how the company feels about mental health days, promote mental health days, of course, and continue to find new ways for this employee to have flexibility around the clock. I think that's really important, and that would appeal to the high performer really well. Next is managing the workload realistically. So don't allow them to take on too much work. Help them where you can on taking on some of the work. Let them know that this is a team, and as a team, they could come to you whenever they need it for help or assistance on whatever issues, and that makes for a more comfortable, mutualistic work relationship between you two. And as mentioned, boundaries. So boundaries is very important. Encourage healthy work boundaries. No communication after the shift has ended. Try and to limit, telecommunicating after hours. That's really important and really beneficial to the employee, because they know, okay, so once work is done, and I can focus on my family life, and they're not stepping over to each other too much, because naturally when you're a worker, it will happen at some point, but you don't want it to be something that's consistent, because it causes interruptions, which causes job dissatisfaction, and the domino effect causes a higher turnover rate, and that's what we're trying to avoid. So definitely healthy communication boundaries. Also providing organizational support is really important. Just what we call being sensitive and open to your workers' needs is very, very, very pivotal for the success of the organization as a whole. Not constantly being overbearing or micromanaging, but also offering the support when needed, as mentioned, to allow that employee the, like I said, autonomy and flexibility. Those all tie in together, and they don't really work well without each other. And the next two pieces of advice I would give is that the manager should be approachable and should check in on workloads. And I know this all sounds like I'm repeating myself, but because every part goes together, this is almost like a word problem here, right? I mean, or a math problem where there's 3-4 steps, and if you mess up the third step, then you mess up the fourth or fifth, or you mess up the second, you mess up the third. So you just want to be able to have a system where it all makes sense, and then also a reward system. Value your employees. If you can offer a bonus, offer a bonus. If you could offer a mental wellness day, if, for example, if you just got audited and the audit went well. So I think like all of those things tying together is the advice that I would give as a consultant to keeping a high performer happy. Okay, so now I will be addressing question 5 regarding chapter 6 about organizational citizenship behavior. And while organizational citizenship behavior is very important to a job, having good teamwork, having positive behaviors, and about just being a hard worker are very important. Oftentimes those are put into job descriptions and can possibly be misleading to an applicant due to the fact that they might feel like that's all they need to do good at the job. But when they get on the job, they see that there's a lot of role and tasks and intricate details that have been left out in the job description. So I took the pleasure in finding a job description that is from the Community Garden of Brooklyn and Queens, and they are offering a case manager position. And off the top of the description, I realized that there were too many vague traits within it. Some of those traits, are just demonstrating or good organizational skills, having good punctual skills, time management, but they don't directly speak about what's required for you to accurately do well on the job and what's needed or expected of you, such as deadline expectations, caseload management. Things like that could be misleading, as mentioned, because a potential employee might think, okay, I have good punctual skills, I have good organizational skills, I should be a shoo-in for this position. So to fix that, I would take out the vague listings that they put, and I would, for starters, mention what degree, what field of degree, bachelor's degree, and field that does pertain to case management. This could be psychology, sociology, social work, and then I would mention the expectations to have the ability to work a caseload of however possible estimate number. I would also go ahead and list time, what's expected as far as time management, what's expected as far as deadlines, so that the employee can have a clear understanding on how they will be being evaluated if they do get this job or choose to, mutually take the job up. Also, the ability to use case management like softwares, and the ability to be able to do service plans, to crisis intervene. Can they travel to this job accurately? Do they understand the time consuming? Like, okay, so you'll be asked to work 9 to 5. Sometimes you will have to work weekends. You'll be on call. all of these things are super important and shouldn't be left out when we're talking about being successful within the job. Of course, being a good team member, colleague, organizational skills was something most jobs that are like regarding a career expects of you. But when you're in a certain field, you want it to be more precise to that organization, to that industry, and to the population that they are serving. So instead of the vague OCBs that were used originally in the job description for this case manager position, I would replace the organizational with a reliability to meet deadlines, the ability to use software, case manager software, things like that will probably take priority over the vague, as mentioned, vague listings that they had. And I think that can bring in a better applicant pool, because those who don't feel like they have certain qualities probably won't apply, and those who feel like they can do the job or have done the job will apply, and it makes your recruitment process more intentional overall. Okay, so now I will be addressing question 5 regarding chapter 6. And if I was to be brought in as a consultant for a company and I was to be asked to help with the counterproductive work behavior, also known as CWB, without having data first, I would first explain to the company what are the constraints that could be causing counterproductive work behaviors. Some of these things can be unclear work expectations, poor management, and overall poor leadership. So some of the possible constraints that can be plaguing this company can be the same things. It could be unfair treatment. It could be not knowing the employees' unclear work expectations, not knowing what success looks like, not knowing what is expected of them on the day-to-day. This could lead to withdrawal within a company, and employees doing the bare minimum because they feel like not much is really being expected of them to begin with. And because of this, now you have employees showing up late. You have employees giving in deadlines late. You have employees not being as engaged into projects how they should, especially when the job does a lot of project-based work. Another possible constraint could also be the lack of resources. Jobs being short staff is a big one, and this all actually ties in to the recruitment process, ties into organizational citizenship behaviors that are listed in the job descriptions, because when you don't accurately start from the beginning of the recruitment process, this then will bleed in to your actual work environment, because now you're hiring employees who don't understand what's expected of them, and they feel like they are failing, they feel like they're not doing good, and they quit. And now you're stuck with staff who might have too much work on them, who might be too stressed out, which, as I mentioned, causes withdrawal from the company, which means lack of engagement. And from lack of engagement, now you have bare minimum work, and you have employees that are openly disregarding the employee handbook or the rules that were made, but because they were never stated clearly, they're being left to be, how do I put it? They're being left to be taken advantage of. The rules are, because they're able to be bent now because they were never properly stated in the first place. So now when you have an issue of counterproductive work behaviors happening within your organization, you have to go from the top a lot of times. So to fix this, you will want to rewrite your job duties. And this may even start with rewriting the job descriptions, because that's where and a future employee will first get familiar with the job and what's expected of them through the job duties, right? So first you will want to rewrite the job duties as such. Then you want to improve supervision. You will want to improve the supervision at the job. I like we speak about mentorships, one-on-one, speaking about sensitivity to employee needs, a balance between work and family conflict. All these things will start to fall off when there aren't clear-cut expectations being stated, and you're gonna have to go from the top down in order to rewrite the culture of the and of the organization. Another way you can help with these CWBs that's happening within your organization is to also go ahead and reassign workloads. If you're working with clients, instead of one worker holding 30 clients, let's try to knock it down to 20. Also improve the resources. Like I said, try to keep a full staff, try to keep an updated technology, place a hyper focus on the IT at the job. So when a new technology, Windows or whatever systems you run is ready to update, it updates throughout the whole organization. Not just some people get the update. It's mandatory that computers are left on so that it upgrades throughout the end of the workday, and then when you come back, the update's already done, so everyone can keep flowing on a consistent basis. And lastly, increase fairness. No favoritism. If this person, no matter if they was working there for 20, 30 years, if they're coming in late and disregarding company policies, they should be treated the same as someone who is still within their probation period, because this keeps everyone grounded and respecting the company and the rules set by the company, and also boost morale. Give wellness days, bonuses after stressful deadlines or audits if possible within a company's budget. I feel like all of these things can help with the constraints that CWB comes with overall.